let me spend a moment on what has become one of those hot button issues that our council will now be grappling with next week, and that relates to development in Clarksburg. As some of you may know, the county executive has sent over suggestion that we act on changing our water and sewer categories, i.e. providing sewer, to development in the Clarksburg area. When the council back in 1994 approved development in Clarksburg, it did so conditionally. It did so saying that before we opened up the last bit of development, we would see what was happening to 10 Mile Creek, which is one of our most fragile and important creeks. And quite frankly, what we have seen to date with respect to the impact of development on that creek has not been particularly pretty. So there's grave concern that were we to go forward with future development in Clarksburg without taking into account what has already taken place to 10 Mile Creek and the development that is proposed immediately adjacent to 10 Mile Creek, the headwaters of 10 Mile Creek, that it would be a significant issue for our environment. It's probably the hot button issue on environment and development that our council will grapple with over the course of the next year. It was in 1994 a 5-4 vote that had a significant impact on the county executive race at the time. So the history with respect to this issue is very deep. The concerns are very serious with respect to it, and of course the development community is quite eager to proceed there. So the choice that my colleagues and I will be grappling with is whether or not on October 9th, when the planning board comes before us, whether we amend their work plan to have a look at Clarksburg and whether or not we need to change the density that we've allowed in Clarksburg and perhaps allow more density in town center, but take other measures that might preserve the 10 Mile Creek area, because that is the fundamental issue that we're going to struggle with. So on the one hand, we could take this master plan amendment route, which would probably take a couple of years. On the other hand, we could look at water and sewer category changes, but that requires a great deal of scientific work as well, and in my judgment, might take a year in and of itself. So we have two paths that we could choose. We could choose to look at each individual property and decide whether or not there are conditions that we would put on those properties, or we could step back and say we need to look at this in the context of our land use decisions more broadly and look at it through the lens of a master plan amendment. I think this will be a difficult choice for my colleagues, and I would project a close vote on that very issue. I personally am meeting with the environmental community, meeting with our county officials, meeting with our staff, meeting with the development community, make sure that I understand all the nuances associated with this choice, because it's going to be a big deal.